Hey, what's going on, everybody? Frank Berry here with Tithely on another live episode of The Modern Church Leader. Super excited about today's guest, longtime friends. We've done a bunch with this conference over the years, but just super well-versed and knowledgeable, tons of experience in the church communications space. And we're going to get into it and talk about effective year-end communication strategies. So without further ado, Justin Dean, what's going on?
What's up, Frank?
Live and in person, all the way from. I mean, the studio looks good.
Yours looks good.
What? Tell everybody where are you coming from? Like, where's home base in this virtual world?
Yeah, broadcasting live from north of Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice.
We keep moving further and further out, so I kind of can't say Atlanta anymore because we're a good hour north of Atlanta now.
Yeah, and you have like hopes and dreams of like literally moving to the country.
We are, yeah, we're looking at farmland, like some acreage, and we're trying to just get away from people.
So you're like, this whole virtual
I'm loving it.
Life is good.
Yeah. We're just doubling down.
Now, do you want to actually farm?
A little bit. Like we want the little goats. We might get some chickens.
Yep.
That's probably about as far as we go.
Yeah.
Like my wife, she grew up like literally on a farm in Michigan, and she could handle cows, pigs, whatever we get. But
right.
I'm not.
You're like, honey, I don't know. I'm out.
I draw the line at the cute little goats that will just eat the grass so I don't have to mow it.
Right. You're like, I have purpose behind my farm animals. Right. Well, man, why don't you tell everybody joining us live a little bit about Justin Dean? Like, what's your, how'd you get into church communications? What's your path been like?
Yeah. So, I mean, my history was working for a bunch of tech startups and doing marketing and PR for a bunch of different companies like autotrader.com and Home Depot and companies like that too. And then one of those companies actually sent us out to Seattle, Washington. We were living here in Georgia, and we moved out to Seattle for 6 months to help sell a company. And after that happened, we just kind of loved the Seattle area and decided to look for a job around there.
Yeah.
We were going to a church called Mars Hill Church, and we're really getting plugged in there. And the pastors there encouraged me to kind of use my business skills for the church and apply for a job that they had there in marketing. And so, one thing led to another, and went to work for the church, was there for about 5 years, running all communications and PR, marketing, social media, everything for Mars Hill and Mark Driscoll. And then unfortunately that church closed at the end of the 5 years. End of 2014, like literally December 30th, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the last employees there to help close things down. And moved back here to Georgia, where we had some family, and decided to figure out what's next. And I wanted to stay in the church world. And so I started a conference called That Church Conference.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that, going on 6 years now.
I mean, that's how we connected originally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, that first year.
Year one. Yeah.
Yeah. Dean flew out, and year one, you guys sponsored the conference.
Right.
Tithely was just a baby back then, too.
That's right. That was the beginning.
Yeah. We kind of have grown together.
I don't even know how we crossed paths. Like, it must have been.
I think Dave Adamson knew Dean because everyone in Australia knows each other or something.
They all know each other. All Australians are friends.
It's a really small island, I hear.
Oh man, that's been, so it's 5 years old or 6?
Yeah,
six?
This is our 6th year.
Okay. Yep. What so rewind back to your time at Mars Hill.
Yeah.
What did a church communicator's job look like?
Oh gosh.
Give me the, I don't know, the 90-second version.
It was pretty new at that point. We were one of the first churches to really have a role for it and to really build out like a media and communications department.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of went all in with it. I mean, we were a very marketing driven church, we were producing a ton of content, and most churches still don't kind of have that beast going.
Yeah.
But it was something that everyone saw was becoming more and more valuable. Churches were putting their sermons online more. Churches were starting to really do actual live stream services, and realizing like, hey, we have more people watching online than we do, coming to church. How do we
But that was so early, like that. I mean,
Yeah.
now in 2020, the
Now
year
we're
of
all
COVID, right? For all people that will watch this show 20 years from now, when it's in the archives, in the year of COVID, every church is doing church online and streaming.
Oh yeah.
But even before, before March of this year, I mean, probably half the churches or more still weren't live streaming.
There were many churches that still were like, we'll never do that.
Right.
And now they were forced to, at least for a while. And I don't think I've seen any church that's like, hey, now that we're open, we're killing the live stream. Now everyone's doing both. I mean, they've kind of realized, hey, there is some good to it if we, steward it well, and we could build disciples through it. So, we had to build all that out at Mars Hill for the first time. We didn't really have anyone to look to say, here's how they're doing it. Guys like Larry Osborne were doing multi-campus, and we were learning from them, but that was about it.
Yeah, early days. Now, did you do so it sounded like in terms of content, you were publishing sermons, you probably started a blog or some version of just publishing content other than the sermons.
Yeah. We had our church blog, which was more, we did daily devotionals. We did content that was biblically based or that followed the sermon series that we were in. Yep. And then we launched the Resurgence, which grew to be a pretty crazy blog. We had, hundreds of thousands of page views each month. It was one of the top Christian blogs at the time, and had a lot of, celebrity pastors and church leaders writing and stuff for us. And that was more leadership driven, like for other churches to consume. But I mean, it was huge. Altogether we had a good 45-person team.
Wow.
Doing editorial, articles, graphics, videos, everything.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. Well, let's jump into, I guess, the topic a little bit. Just talking about like year-end communication strategies. It's obviously already the 15th, so we're almost to the end.
There's a few churches that are going to be like, oh, good, we're just
let's get some tips, and so maybe we'll bleed into like end of year communication and how to kind of kick off the new year. But what are some of the key things that churches should be doing right now as part of their communications plan? I mean, like Christmas services are coming up, and end of year giving is coming up, things like that. Like what was a common set of things that you'd be doing at Mars Hill or seen other churches do this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with any of these communications, I think, is to focus less on, hey, we need to get the message out to give or to come to Christmas services, stuff like that, and really instead focus on unearthing the stories in all of that. So especially with like communications about giving. Everyone's going to be giving at the end of the year, whether it's because they're more generous or because they need the tax break or both. They're going to be giving their money to someone, and they're getting a ton of asks, especially now when like everything is digital. Like if you look at your Facebook feed on Sunday, it's nothing but church streams and nonprofits even, and everybody's going to be asking them for donations and their attention. And so churches need to get it in front of that, but we have the ability to really show, okay, here's what God is doing with that money, and to really unearth stories of how the church has impacted the community, impacted people's lives, show people who have gotten baptized and saved, and families that have healed, things like that. Show the work that the church is actually doing, and share those stories through your live stream, through social media, through your emails. Like that should be a part of all of your messaging during time of year, because that's what people need now, kind of as we're ending the most horrible year that has ever existed. Like, let's provide some hope as we're asking for donations, I guess. But
yeah. What kind of things, right? One of the things that I love about working at Tithely and working with the customers we serve is we serve a lot of really small churches, right? Like your average church in America is 100, 150 members, maybe.
Sure.
Not the big mega church.
Right.
So like, how can, your regular church, right? Your local church, it's got 100 members, like think about, pulling these stories out. Like, how do you get these stories? And how can you even, like, they don't have the big video budget. They're not going to do a big production, right? They're going to do things on a very different scale. But what should they be doing? Like, what could they do to find a great story and get that word out right now?
I think churches need to embrace that they don't need to be like the big church. Be the 100-person church and use what you have at your disposal right now. We got a visitor. I think
Kids on the live stream. Sorry, y'all.
No, all good. Hey, buddy. Every church, has an iPhone,
right,
or an Android phone, I guess, and some kind of device that can capture stories that way. I think the big thing you got to do is just ask people, ask your key leaders. Hey, in the small groups that you've been a part of, what kind of stories have you heard? Okay, great. Can we get them to write a guest post for the blog on the website? Can you just record a quick video with your phone and send that to us? Ask them these 3 questions.
Right.
That's the type of stuff. It doesn't have to be well produced, productions that you put out. People are going to be more interested in the actual content than they are in the music you put behind it and the camera you used and stuff like that. Now, you want to get to that level, sure, if you can. You got the resources, you got the people who can help. Sure, the better quality you can make it, the better that's going to be, because design does help, and creativity does help tell stories. But honestly, start with just capturing that stuff, capturing it as much as you can, and putting it out on all different types of mediums. You got blogs, written format, you got social media, quotes and images and photos. Just take a photo of Larry and type up a paragraph on Instagram saying, hey, Larry's been going to our church for 5 years. He used to be a crack addict and now he's a deacon.
Right.
And this is the type of stuff that's God's doing through our, community that you're a part of. Like, that's all it takes.
Right. I mean, I love the just the idea that everybody's got a smartphone. Like, small church or not, probably most of the people in your church have a smartphone.
Right.
And they can all shoot a quick video, or they can all shoot you a quick email with like their story.
Right.
And then, you can grab a picture or get that video from them and like highlight members and highlight how God, has worked in their lives, or even just quick little stories. Like, grab 5 stories from your small groups that happened this year in 2020 and like mash them together. And
I mean, create a free Google form, send it out to all of your small group leaders and have them fill it out and just say, hey, next time you meet with your small group before the end of the year, just ask them, hey, how has the small group impacted your life this year? How has the church impacted your life this year? And write down those stories in the form, and we'll use them for social media. We'll use them for blog posts. We'll use them for all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's easy. It's easy to get that stuff if you try and you kind of put a plan together for it. But the whole point is just to show people how God is actually moving, because that's going to be a lot more impactful than, hey, next year we want to build, a new annex to the building and we need some new lights, or we need to repair the AC, or we want to bring in 3 new staff members so we can do this. Like, those are all great things that you probably need that hopefully contribute to the mission of the church and contribute to the kingdom of God. But people don't want to write a check to go to the AC. They want to write a check because
Right.
people's
Painting
lives are
is not inspiring.
yeah, because the AC means more people will feel comfortable to come to the church in the summer. And we see how that's important because their lives can be changed by Jesus, and so
Right.
you've got to complete that story and tell it. Otherwise, people, they're not always going to make that connection, especially new people.
Right. Totally. What have you seen any great examples? Like I know there's the big churches, and that's fine as well, but can you think of any, medium, smaller churches that have done a great job using I don't know, like little videos on social media to highlight member stories or impact kind of stories? Anything come to mind?
None come to mind that are like highlighting specific people like that. I mean, I've seen a ton of churches. Even the church we go to is a 200-person church. Our pastor's doing little, a 5-minute show on YouTube and stuff like that,
Yeah,
where it's just good content, answering relevant questions and stuff like that.
I love that.
I think highlighting stories like that works great. In little short videos like that as well too. But yeah, I haven't seen a ton of that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's so
What
easy to do.
what's your pastor doing on these YouTube? Talk about that a little bit. I think that's cool.
Yeah, he just started them up, which is great. Because I mean, we're a small church,
Yeah.
and they haven't had a big online presence at all, really. Like during COVID, they kind of all of the pastors jumped online and connected with people because we were closed for quite a while,
Right.
and we're just now opening back up. But he's doing these it's like little biblical theology lessons. We're big on theology. We're big on, we preach through books of the Bible rather than topics and stuff like that, even though I think both are fine, just for the record. But that's what he does. And so the videos that he's putting out are literally 3 to 5 minutes answering a biblical question or answering a theological question and just providing some extra biblical knowledge. And what's great is they're so short and shareable. That's the stuff people are going to share. That's the stuff that can go viral. That's the stuff that actually can be helpful, because people are searching YouTube, they're searching Google, they're searching Facebook for specific questions, for specific topics.
Right.
And no one's going to watch a 30-minute, or in our case, our guy preaches for an hour. No one's going to watch an hour-long sermon or even a 30-minute sermon and hope that they get the answer. They want to see that little video that someone.
I'll make sure to send your pastor this video and tell him to right at about minute 18. Check out.
Yeah, please. I got 4 kids, man, and there's a children's nursery right now. So,
but I love that even in the communication, like thinking about church communications. I know we're kind of talking end of year, but pastors getting on using YouTube or even Instagram, like doing Instagram TV or something like that, and doing these 2, 3, 5-minute max videos. And you mean your guy sounds like he's doing it daily?
No, I think it's just kind of every once in a while at this point.
Okay.
Probably weekly. I don't know if he's on a schedule or if he's just doing it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, pick a channel. YouTube, IG, Facebook. I mean, you don't have to blast it everywhere.
Right.
Start small and start easy. Start where your audience is. I mean, like one of the best things you can do during this time too is just to be generous. So particularly with like giving communications too. Like if you're asking for people to be generous, then you've got to model that. You've got to be generous. So you can do that through content like this.
Right.
Like the time and effort it takes to put this stuff out and to help enrich people's lives. That's something you can be generous with. You can create, turn your blog posts or your sermons into a PDF booklet that they can download that you email out for free. If your worship team is good, record a song and send that out. Or if you do produce albums and stuff, send a few songs or a free album during this time.
Right.
Like, have you read the book, Gary Vee's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook?
I have not read it. I know about it, have not read it, but yeah.
I mean, the general idea behind it is in communications, particularly social media, you want to have, a series of, he calls them jabs in his example, to where, okay, we're sharing good content, we're giving away stuff. You want to have a series of posts that aren't asking for something, and then you earn that right to ask for something.
Right.
Seth Godin talks a lot about it too. Like you've got to build up that kind of equity before you can just say, hey, come to this or buy this or donate here. And churches generally are just a ton of right hooks. It's nothing but event promotion. It's nothing but
Right.
Here's everything we got going on that you need to come to, that you need to do. And we need to get better at those jabs where we're saying, here's some free stuff. Here's what we're doing for you. Here, literally 10, 12 things before we ask. And then when that ask comes, it's like, even psychologically, people are just thinking, oh, they've been so generous with stuff. It doesn't even have a negative connotation when it's saying, come to this event or donate here before the year end type of thing.
Yeah.
So content's a great way to do that, though.
Why do you think it's hard for many pastors or church leaders to jump on the video kind of bandwagon and do the 2-minute or 5-minute kind of video on a regular basis? Because I'm thinking, effective church communications nowadays has to involve some sort of social media.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because everybody, by and large, like most people are waking up in the morning and, they're jumping on Facebook or Instagram, maybe YouTube, maybe Twitter, and they're consuming content. They're kind of catching up. They're seeing what's going on. And if people engage with something like some particular channel or account frequently, they're going to see that first thing. If you watch something let's say on Facebook TV or whatever it's called, Facebook, I don't even know if it,
watch.
If somebody publishes a daily show, let's say, and you check it out every morning, while you're having coffee, well, all of a sudden, you will see those notifications and you will see it every single day because Facebook knows that you're watching that, right? So there's this opportunity for church leaders, for churches to kind of accomplish the same thing so that when, I open up my phone and I look at Instagram, I'm going to see what's coming from the church because they're producing that content and I'm looking at it regularly.
I mean,
churches don't do it. A lot of pastors shy away from it or don't. What do you think?
I think there's probably a few different things. I mean, one big one is they don't want to do it unless it's produced well. They literally don't like the idea of just taking out their phone and recording a video or recording someone because it doesn't always look good.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I've got the same phone as my wife. It's the newest, best iPhone. I'll take a picture of my kids and it's fine. It looks good. She'll take a picture with her phone, and she is a professional photographer, but she's still using the same phone.
Right.
And she takes it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, your photo looks dramatically better. She's always sending me her photos because I'm the one who posts everything. She can care less about posting stuff on social media. She'll send me her photos, and I'll post
her stuff. You're delete.
I'll post mine. And so I get it. Particularly maybe an older pastor who isn't as technology inclined, just doesn't get it, doesn't want to see that type of content being put out. But honestly, I think who cares? Some of the first videos I did for Sunday U, our training platform and stuff, were pretty rough. And I'm no video guy. Some of these guys do great.
Right.
And I'll never reach that level, but I'm like, man, it's good enough now. Buy a ring light and you're good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of church leaders, people that are on video, upgraded their kits. They got a ring light, they maybe got another camera, they got a little bit better microphone.
Yeah.
But even then, you don't have to do that. Your iPhone.
Honestly, I love it when it's just on the phone type of stuff.
Right.
I really got bored quickly when everyone jumped to live streams and it was drive down to the church and let's preach to an empty room on the same stage, turn on the lights, that just got boring really quick. So it was okay, I'm here at home in my PJs watching, and you're in the empty room down at the church. It just made no sense. And so we saw a lot of churches to where the pastor would just stay at home and do it, in front of their computer or do it from their phone, or they'd sit on the couch, and it just felt a little more personal, a little more natural. And I think that's great. Like, for one, it was a lot easier for them to produce, and for the audience, it was a lot more engaging.
Right.
So, I think it's just, you got to get over those stigmas a little bit and try it. And with anything like this, I think, just start trying it. And at first you're going to see, okay, hey, I did this, it was exhausting, and we got 10 viewers. So that sucks. But like you said, like, wait for those algorithms to kick in. If you're checking your church's video every morning when you first wake up, Facebook's going to trigger that. And guess what?
Show up.
Two weeks later, the first thing that'll show up when you open your phone is going to be the church's videos, because it's going to start kicking that into your algorithm. And so you've got to just wait for that stuff to be conditioned. You got to get your staff and volunteers to like and comment and share and kind of kickstart that stuff as much as you can. But it takes time.
It takes time. And you can record the, quick side note. What do you think the optimal length is? Not for a service, not for like a Sunday morning kind of thing, but just like
a little.
What do you think?
Honestly, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes tops. Like, I don't I really have to.
And it's got to be really good.
I really have to love it if it's going to be 10 minutes, but 3 minutes, like, honestly, is probably the sweet spot. And it might be different. Like, experiment with that. Do a 3-minute video, and then do a 10-minute video and compare them, and do that a few times and see what works better. Your audience might enjoy, the longer stuff. You might be more engaging than, some other pastors. And so maybe you can go a little longer, but.
So somebody in the YouTube comments, it's actually Russ, but I think he's writing on behalf of another pastor. He says, we use some prompts. The church is saying we use some prompts for their videos. They do one question, one verse, one personal story, one point.
Nice.
Right. And it sounds like they've been doing a variation, and they do those, and they do it in a couple minutes, like 2 minutes. And they're just quick. They call them moving moments.
Well, think about like nighttime TV, like, Jay Leno and all those guys, like, they're variety shows, right? Like, there's a monologue, and then that only lasts so long, and then there's a guest, and then there's like a skit, and then there's like a stupid game they play, and then a band, and then another monologue and another guest. Like, our attention, things need to change.
Right. Like, when you break all that up, each one of those segments is probably only a few minutes long.
Totally. Yeah.
Danny says we aim our devotional thoughts to be 7 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, it's pretty.
And I would say measure that, like, see how well that's working, and how, try a 3-minute one.
Right. And they do it daily. So Danny, big props.
Yeah,
awesome. Post your YouTube channel link for everyone to check out. I think that's cool. Right. Just doing it daily. I think again, we're kind of talking end of year communication, but really this is an all year. Maybe this is a 2021 church goal, like church communications goal, to say, I want to try to do like even if it's a weekly, like Monday morning, quick video from the pastor.
So don't commit, like, don't make that commitment. Don't launch this big thing saying, hey, we're going to do a daily devotion show. It's like, man, start out with a weekly show.
Right.
Start putting a video out every once in a while. If it booms, then you can decide, okay, this is something we can do daily. But
keep going.
I think a lot of pastors too, they don't see the value in stuff. It's hard to tie this into, how is this actually impacting, church attendance and donations and people getting saved and baptisms. And so I think with all of that, you've got to think through that strategy. Like, okay, what is our purpose of putting out these videos?
Right.
Is it so we can reach, a wider audience, and that audience might watch us online or come visit us in church,
mm-hmm.
and therefore become, serve and give and stuff like that, meet those actual practical goals.
Yep.
Or is it just to serve our our current members with content because we know they're at home and everyone needs hope right now and they're hurting, and maybe we're providing some of that. Like, I don't know, you got to just figure out what's important to you, what's important to your goals, and how you can measure that through this stuff. But I think it's very valuable for all of those purposes.
And you might have, like, I think if, let's just an example, like senior pastor does a 3-minute video, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday or something like that. That to me is more like, I'm just trying to connect with my church. Right. The goal is just that people are hearing from me. We're having a bit of a dialogue in a sense, right, via the comments and kind of engaging, but I've got something to say that I'm trying to share. Whereas your pastor is doing like this teaching, that is engaging the church, but also has this other effect. Like, people can find that content on YouTube and maybe they're searching for, I don't know, help with my marriage or something like that your pastor's talked about, and they're in the local area, and now YouTube shows that result. So now he's connecting for a different reason.
It could definitely be a front door to the church. I mean, in his like one of our goals as a church is to provide more teaching content. Like, we have a school, they do like these Sunday school classes, they do these summer classes, like you can, discipleship type classes on different topics. One is usually like a marriage class, one's a how to parent teenagers class, one's how to, like, Christianity 101 type of stuff. And so he's big on that kind of teaching and providing that kind of content. And so this leads into that as well. And for sure, people see that and they go, man, I want to be part of a community that believes in this stuff. Okay, well, we've got a church for that. We've got classes for that. We've got church online for that. But for him, it's like, man, if people, hear this teaching and it helps their lives, that's great. Like, when did we ever decide our reach can only go to the city that our church is in? Like, and that's fine if that's where you feel like you need to focus. That's what God's calling you to do. That's great. But honestly, there's a wider reach. Like, we're called to make disciples of all nations. It didn't say that we each pick a nation and stick to it. I mean, we're all called to reach all nations. So that opportunity exists through quick little 3-minute videos that you can throw up.
And it might take you a year. You might be at it for a year. I love Westfield UMC said, my husband was doing daily, so like kind of a daily devotional, and now he's doing 3 days a week. There you go. It sounds like there's like a check-in. Their format of the videos, like there's a bit of a check-in, reads a scripture, reads a poem, and then has a children's story.
Oh, that's smart.
So, they've been doing some work. So props to Westfield UMC. That's cool. I love hearing some of these little comments that are coming through while we're live about what people are doing. And if you keep that up for a period of time, like it will pay off. Like, but it might not be in month 1. It might be in month 12 or 24.
And you got to be realistic with it. I mean, you're not, you may not get 10,000 views for
if you're a 100-member church, 150-member church. You're not expecting to get.
Honestly, like this show, I have no idea how many people are watching this right now. I'm sure it's not 10,000, but I'm looking at this chat here.
There's millions of people, literally,
obviously
watching live right now.
Probably because of your guests, but. But like, people are engaging in these comments like crazy, and they're actually telling us stories of how they're using the things we're talking about. To me, that's awesome. I don't care if these are the only people watching. Like, maybe it's only 10, but they're engaging with it. They're telling us stories of how it's working at their church, and they're learning new things. Like, that's worth whatever production goes into putting this together.
100%.
And hopefully that'll grow, over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to read these. A congregation. So this is Southeastern Minnesota Synod, the ELCA, big partner of ours. Love you guys. It says the congregation I attend has been naming the fact that people participating anywhere are welcome to join in and stuff they're doing, saying like wherever you are to participate. So it sounds like they're saying, come join. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, how you're watching.
You're putting something out on the internet, anybody can watch it. You've got to know that audience. You've got to treat that audience different than how you would say things on Sunday morning, where it's just your local community coming to attend in person. And so, have that in mind. Like, hey, this is something we're putting out to reach anybody anywhere. And have that in mind too, of like, hey, when you say, come to church, say, come to our church if you're nearby. We'd love to have you. But honestly, just find a church wherever you are, and maybe even provide resources to do that. Like, how easy would it be to just link to a directory of churches or something like that, and help people connect with churches that are like-minded to yours if you want, or just, help point them anywhere.
Totally. Okay, let's I guess not switch topics, but what, like email, text messages, other forms. We've hit social pretty heavy, but end of year, what kind of cadence do you see churches on? And, are they ramping up things for like inviting people to Christmas services, or how are you seeing text messaging play into some of this stuff nowadays?
Yeah, texting is huge. I mean, that's kind of the newest form I think the churches have adopted, because we're trying to figure out ways to communicate with people at home. We're not seeing them every Sunday. We're not handing them a bulletin anymore.
Right.
They're not
the bulletin. The bulletin.
Yeah, lots of churches haven't been handing out a bulletin for a while.
People are hurting over that one, definitely.
That's definitely a touchy topic. I'm all for the one sheet handout. That's fine. Like, there's stuff you can put on it. It's helpful. It's the here's our book of everything we need to communicate to you. Like, that's, I don't think, helpful. But we're trying to figure out ways, to communicate with people in what's now a digital era, and probably will be for another year or two, if not longer. A lot of this stuff is going to be everlasting as well, and I think that's great. So, texting is awesome. Finding ways to get people on a list where you can text message them different things, like that could literally be a link to your daily devotion or your weekly show or something like that. Like, you want to be careful with it. You don't want people to unsubscribe, just like anything else.
Yeah.
You don't want to just blast everything over text, but texting's awesome, because if someone texts you, you check it. Like, no matter what you're doing, and you act on it right away. Like, the open rate on texting is like, what, 90 something, percent.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be well
in a minute.
Like, I bet you everybody right now watching could look at their phone and have, less than 5 unread text messages.
Like, I've got 3 text messages right now. It's killing me. Like, we got to wrap this up. I got to figure out what's going on. But, texting, email, those things are crazy valuable right now, more than ever.
Right.
Email has always been a big one. And I think that we see a lot of churches just don't use it too well. They try to cram everything into a newsletter, just like they do the bulletin. And I think there's ways that you can use email as an effective tool to get content out, to be generous, through email too, like I was saying, to provide them actual content that is helpful for their lives, and not just, hey, here's the next 10 events, stuff like that.
I feel like email is like more and more, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's generational to some extent, but people who live in email for work, I think, get less and less into checking all of their email, especially like personal email, because they've been in it for work all day long.
Sure. There's noise to cut through, but it's still effective.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats just don't lie. I mean, like, what's great about all these things is you can track every little piece of it.
Right.
You can track whether they clicked the link at the top or they clicked the link at the bottom. You can track how many times they opened it and what platform they used to open it. Like, it's sometimes a little scary how much info is transmitted on every email that you open.
Yeah. What in terms of email strategy, end of year or even going into next year, is the most common thing that you've seen from churches like a weekly newsletter? That's what's going on.
Yeah, that's probably the most common that I see, and it's usually along the lines of like, here's what we shared in kids ministry, here's what the sermon was, and maybe a link to the recording, and then here's the next 5 events that we've got going on. That kind of format, which is fine. Like that can be helpful in a lot of ways, but I think you've got to have a strategy around that to where you're providing more value than just keeping people informed of what's going on at the church. Like there's a huge opportunity there to provide valuable content that way. To actually, it's amazing. Like people rarely will ask for a reply in a mass email like that. We usually think it's like an ad, like we treat it like
Right.
an ad. But email is meant to be conversational, right? Like I send you an email, Frank, how's it going? How are the kids? You know, do you want to sponsor the conference again? You know, love Justin. And then you reply, like, you know, like that's how email works. But we don't treat it that way with newsletters. And so I think, you know, have the email come from your pastor or from a leader or something like that, and ask questions that people can actually reply to, and you can start having conversations and build relationships that way. You might see that like some of your working professionals, some of your older congregants, they'll actually reply to email a lot more than they will a Facebook post or an Instagram
Right.
post. Maybe they're not active on social, and so you want to try and reach them that way. Texting, obviously, too. Don't just blast out, "Hey, here's the next event." Use it, like literally send out a message to your texting list saying, "How you doing today?" And just see like how many people actually reply to that and be like, "Well, you know, not so great. Like we're running out of toilet paper again," like, you know, or whatever it is.
Like make it conversational somehow, right? I guess maybe a little bit related to that, text-based emails from the pastor or big produced newsletter, graphic, crazy stuff?
I think you've got to mix it up with stuff like that, because like even in the newsletters we send out and the emails we send out, I've seen that if it's just straight text and it looks just like a normal email, but it, you know, it has that footer at the bottom that says unsubscribe, because you gotta include that. Like please,
Right.
if you're sending emails, use a system like Tidely or whatever that has, you know, the proper unsubscribe links and stuff like that, because otherwise that's illegal. But you can make it look just text, you know, have the person's name, a couple paragraphs, and a signature, sign it from someone, so it's actually coming from someone.
Yeah.
Those do really, really well, because that's what people are expecting in email. If they see, you know, a frame and graphics and all that, they're immediately deleting it, just like the emails from Target and Gap and Amazon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you've got to toss it up, because if you do the same email format week after week, people will catch on to that too. And so the whole idea is just kind of mix it up. I mean, change the look and format of it, change the, you know, the heading, the font. Sometimes you add an image, sometimes you don't. You know, I think you've got to just experiment with that. And like I said, it's all digital, so you can track it. What's working better for your list? Is it the text emails? Is it the fully produced templates? Does it go back and forth? A lot of it depends on the subject line and stuff like that too. Like you can change all that and test all that,
Right.
and just figure out what's working best for you.
Yeah.
You guys actually, like Tidely has an end of year giving playbook. I was checking that out, and it has like email templates and text templates that you can copy and paste. I think it's all for year-end giving stuff, but
Yeah. Let's
helpful templates. Like we should link to that.
yeah, we should. I know somebody's in the comments. Link to the end of year fundraising playbook from Tidely. But let's talk about end of year giving real quick, maybe as the last little part here. Like, what have you seen churches do as it relates to end of year giving? Do they actually do some sort of ask or appeal? Do they not? Like, how do they do it? You know, I guess I've seen a variety. I've seen churches that don't do anything. End of year, it's a normal week, a normal month, and nothing happens. But then I've seen churches that focus on it. So what's your thoughts there?
So I think churches need to not be afraid to ask. Like you have to ask. Everyone's asking. They're, you know, if you don't ask, they're going to get 12 other asks. And so
like charities, nonprofits.
Yeah, charities, nonprofits, World Vision, you know, everybody, particularly at the end of the year, is going to be asking, because they know people people are making these last year end of year donations because of tax purposes.
Right.
It's Christmas time and for a number of different reasons, but it's
Like
mainly
December,
tax purposes.
right? December is the biggest month of the year for charitable giving, and specifically the last like 3 days of December are off the charts. Like so much money is raised for charities around the world, but in the US heavily in the last couple of days of December. And it's because of it's the season, it's the tax break, it's kind of all the things. So
it's great. Like most of those organizations are great and you should give to them too.
Right.
I mean, obviously there's some biblical perspective around tithing. And even offerings and things like that to the church, and so you need to provide some biblical teaching around that is helpful too. But you've got to ask. Like people will give to who asks, and I think be like very targeted and strategic with it too. Like send that ask throughout December, but like you should have an email and a text message and everything set up to go. 8 p.m., 9 p.m., December 31st.
Right.
Literally when people are sitting down making that final last decision, because I mean, you guys probably have data on this, like December 31st, that day alone is
biggest day of the year.
Enough, like everything that's donated in December 31st, like doubles that. Like,
yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, churches should be, it's already the 15th, but churches that are thinking about this, sending an email, sending a text, twice a week for the next 2 weeks, and certainly.
So yeah, and don't ask with each one. Like have a strategy with it.
Yeah.
I would say over the next 2 weeks, right? We got 2 weeks left in the year. Set up 7 or 8 emails, text communications, social media posts. Have the whole gamut, but have a purpose. Like the first one might be, hey, thank you. It's like a year-end recap. Hey, thank you for giving to the church. Here's what we've accomplished. Here's what God has accomplished. Like, don't make it about your church. It's always about them. It's always about God. Here's what God has used you to do through our church, something like that. And don't ask. Like, don't even have a PS or a thing at the bottom that says give. Literally, that email is just thank you. The next one is maybe, hey, here's a free gift, a PDF download, free music, or some extra sermons we record. I don't know, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's just you're giving them something. And again, don't ask.
Yeah.
And then the next one is maybe, hey, as we're wrapping up the year, here's some goals we have in mind or things we're working on. Here's a deliberate ask, and keep it simple. Like that one should literally just be the ask. With a big give button.
Right.
And then follow that through, do that again, do another round of that. But specifically, I would make sure you definitely have that just deliberate, we're asking.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. This is what you need to do. And here's why, but here's how you do it.
Yeah. And soon, because you don't want to go too long.
Yeah.
Or people, again, a lot of giving is going to happen in the last couple of days.
Right.
So you want to hit that day.
They're also planning for that now too. Like they may not give to the end of the month, but they're in their mind right now. They're thinking, "Who are we going to donate to?"
Right, like plant the seed so that your church, your committed, dedicated, long-standing members are right. They're probably giving frequently. They're giving weekly or monthly. Oftentimes, this is an above and beyond kind of gift because of tax purposes, or maybe somebody got a big bonus, or a lot of things happen at the end of the year that people are sort of planning in their finances, right? And it's maybe new. They don't really know until December hits and later on in December. So if it's not on their mind to give to the church because they've already been giving to the church, right? They maybe they would, but you never asked. So make the ask, make it obvious that
no one's going to leave your church because you asked for a donation. I mean, you hear that sometimes, but honestly, if they got an email about year-end giving and that is what decided to finally, the straw broke and they're like, we're not going to this church anymore because they asked for money. like that's a bigger issue. That's a hard issue. That's someone that was going to leave your church anyway. And that's one person. Like,
Right.
no, I don't know why churches are so afraid to ask or talk about giving, to talk about generosity, to talk about things that, God was so clearly calling us to do. We've got to just kind of push back the fear a little bit and have some trust that, hey, this is part of the plan. This is part of what God has planned for us, and our money and our dependence on Him. And so we've got to be comfortable with just saying it.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from folks in the comments if you guys do any sort of end of year fundraising activity. Like, do you send an email? Do you make an ask? How do you do it? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear some of those stories. Okay, while that's going on, Justin, what about building momentum into 2021? Like, we'll wrap it up real quick, but what's a great way to kind of kick the year off well from a communications perspective?
January is always a great time to kick off a new, sermon series or something like that. You got some new people coming to church, returning to church. Hopefully, as we get into the next year, people will start kind of, the vaccines out and stuff now from COVID. And so hopefully things will start to get a little more comfortable with in-person stuff like that. But, online as well, it's good to just kick off the year new with something new, something that you can hype and promote a bit as well. And I think with any of this, you got to create that strategy. You can't just, have a shotgun approach to, sending out communications. That's where churches really get into this rut of like, and I get it. Like, we've literally got an event every week, every Sunday. As soon as you promote Sunday and Sunday's over, it's like, oh my gosh, we've literally got to promote next Sunday now.
Right.
And you got to do it 52 times in addition to whatever other events and things that the pastor has thought up of, And so it's hard, but like, take that Christmas break time to get ahead with that, create a plan, create a calendar. Most of this stuff is pretty repetitive. We know not only Sundays, but we know every year at a certain time, we're going to have a men's retreat. Every year we're going to have Easter. Every year we're going to have Christmas. Like, it's very easy to calendar out, communications for a church. And so plan that out, have that strategy in place, but try to get a month ahead. Like, do that now, plan out January, maybe even try to get into February and plan that out. Here's the communications we're going to put out, and here's what we're talking about. Here's how we're going to be generous. Here's how we're going to praise and thank people. Here's how we're going to give out content. And here's the asks that we need to make that we're going to sprinkle in. Just plan it all out. It's super easy to do. It just takes time to do it. I know a lot of churches at this time of year will take their staff out on a day retreat or a 2-day retreat, and that's just what they'll do. They'll work on the calendar for the next quarter or the next year even, and just have that all planned out.
Yeah. Love that. And I love, you mentioned it briefly, but, having something in January that the church is looking forward to, maybe thinking through what that sermon series might be like, or that, that kickoff service is going to be, or like something that, the church is kind of rallied behind, and getting that messaging out, early in January.
Yeah.
Man, this has been awesome. Tons of great comments, guys. Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate all you who watched live and participated. Give Justin some love. Send him a big thanks in the comments, and make sure to like the show, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Give it a like. Help us spread the word about the Modern Church Leader. Yeah. And Justin, dude, it was great to have you today. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Hope it was helpful for people, and we'll be praying for your churches at this time of year. I know it's hard. This is the first time ever we had to do year-end giving and stuff like that amid a pandemic and
COVID. Yeah.
So hopefully this has been helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Real quick, where can folks go to find out about That CC?
Yeah, go to thatcc.com, and we've been working with you guys on the next event, and got some big announcements coming here soon. Some awesome speakers we're lining up, and we're just going to continue just like you. We can't really do the conference in person yet. It's hard to get that many people in a room these days. So we're kind of going all in online and doing it digitally. And it worked out great. Last year we did one in September, had over 10,000 people watching the conference, which was just incredible. So we're going to do that again, and we're kind of just doubling down with it.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Thatcc.com. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in live. And we will catch you guys next week on another episode of Modern Church Leader. See ya.